Celebrate the Art of Recovery Expo CARE 2021 sponsors. Presented by Community Bridges. Partner Hunkapi. Platinum sponsors Arizona Women's Recovery Center, Molina Healthcare, Mercy Care. Silver sponsors Calvary Healing Center, Clean Slate, Friends, Teen Challenge of Arizona, Together AZ Newspaper. Hey everyone, it's Brandon Lee, host of the podcast Escaping Rock Bottom. This is a special episode, a special edition for the CARE event that's going to be happening here in Arizona, connected with Community Bridges, a great treatment facility that will never say no to anyone asking for help. Part of our conversation today, you're going to meet Sergeant Ashley Thompson with the Arizona Army National Guard. Her life's mission right now is to help reduce substance use within our communities, but to also provide a lot of resources for families through education. Sergeant is with us today. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So what are some of the organizations that you're currently working with?
I work with multiple organizations around the East Valley, primarily the Substance Abuse Coalition Leaders of Arizona, the Mesa Prevention Alliance, and the Stand Up AJ out in Apache Junction.
Okay. Those are all great organizations because to me, right, it's a community. Like we can't just rely on one person or one organization to help end this epidemic that we're dealing with, even through social media, right? Like we all have to have our hands in this game in order to help save the lives of our youth, especially in our community. I love what we're going to be talking about today because it's going to be so educational that the parents who are, a majority of my listeners are parents and they're always just looking for insight and knowledge to figure out how do we end this? How do I keep my child safe? So let's talk about some of the new trends in drug dealing.
Absolutely.
What are some of those new trends?
Well, what we've come to realize and really came to light in November of last year, we had some community forums. And one of the questions during the forum was, how are our youth accessing the substances that they're getting? Because more and more we're seeing younger and younger kids that are overdosing on things that, well, how do they have the access to this? They can't drive. Where are they getting them? And one of the things that I brought to this forum was, well, do you guys know anything about Snapchat? And I was speaking a foreign language. I'm a mom of 6 kids. My kids are all young though, and social media is not really a thing in their life, but I'm still young enough to know about social media. So I brought in some examples of the things that you can find on Snapchat, and the jaws that were on the ground were impressive. I was blown away by the people that didn't know that our kids can use any social media platform, but specifically Snapchat because of its special features to get anything that they want. And
you know what? I'll even say this as somebody who's a recovered, meth and heroin addict going on 12 years, I don't even use Snapchat. So and I'm 41 and I use Instagram. I use Facebook. I'm not really in that target demo for Snapchat. I mean, we're talking about young teenagers and very young adults are the majority of the people who are using Snapchat. So it was even a foreign language to me to figure out how to use Snapchat. Like I was taken aback that kids were able to buy drugs and find drug dealers on Snapchat, a social media platform that is targeted for those kids.
Absolutely. So the social media platforms are kind of an interesting piece, in my opinion. They really target, obviously, to the youth. Snapchat specifically, so it was developed in 2011. So it was developed as a project by college kids, like most of these other social media platforms.
Facebook was a product of kids in college.
Absolutely. And it ever evolves, and these social media platforms, they all compete with each other. So when one platform has something, another one shortly later on will have the same features. Unfortunately, with Snapchat, they were kind of the first to come up with the disappearing messaging feature, which again, if I'm a kid who's looking for something, what better way to send a message to anybody that I don't want my parents to know about?
And have it be poof, be
and
gone.
Then have it disappear within seconds, and I can set that time limit.
Yeah.
What better way to send messages that I know if people are keeping them, because it notifies if you take a screenshot. So if somebody that I send a message to that I meant for it to disappear takes a screenshot of their phone or a screen record, I know, and then I can ask those questions as a kid. So they've really come up with different ways that they are appealing to kids, just in the application itself. And if you look, Instagram, TikTok, and these other ones don't necessarily have those same features yet.
Yeah, but they do copy off one another. So you can actually on Instagram, you can send a bomb photo, meaning that too will explode after a period of 10 seconds.
Yep.
And it'll never show up again. So they all steal features. Each app is like, kids are loving that. How do we adopt that into our thing? A lot of people thought that those like disappearing photos were going to be used for like selfies and like, nude photos, illicit photos, which is also a really dangerous road to go down. And those are some of the reasons too why it's so popular, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the messaging feature is just a piece of it. And what I found funny actually going through in my research with the Snapchat stuff is that they've now incorporated different things like video calling. So you can video call, you can FaceTime. It's like a FaceTime feature. And you could do it to anybody that's on your friends list. So you don't even need people's phone numbers anymore.
No.
And to contact people.
And you can meet other people who you don't have their contact information all through the app in and of itself. Like other people can connect you with these other people.
Yes.
And here's the thing. You don't even know who you're really talking to.
No clue. I've actually coined it the non-acquainted contacts because you have no acquaintances. On Instagram and on Facebook, it has that feature of people you may know or people that you have a connection with.
It connects people with, like, if I like my friend Jason's pictures all the time. Like,
yep.
Instagram is seeing that algorithm as he must really be my friend because I'm liking all the pictures. So what do they start to do? They start to suggest to me who else I should follow based on liking one of my best friend's posts.
Absolutely. And the thing with Snapchat is you don't need the acquaintance to contact people because of their feature with the Snap Map, which is absolutely terrifying.
So I want to get into that, the
Yes.
Snap Map, because it's essentially a GPS tracking monitoring device.
Yes.
Based, and they make a cute thing of it, right? The Snap Map. It's like a little cloud that just like kind of shows up where you're at. Tell me and educate all of us how this Snapchat feature is being used in a way that is connecting our youth to drug use.
So when I first started explaining to people the Snap Map and how it works, one of the explanations or the descriptions that I got was it looked like a weather map.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about people, 20, 30, 40 years old, think it looks like a weather map. And then the blue clouds look like blue clouds on a weather map. And it took a lot of explaining that, no, that's public content. And this is a public map. If your GPS settings are turned on and you have a bit emoji or a little human looking thing on the map and you zoom in close enough, you can see that bit emoji move. And I was in disbelief myself. So I decided to test it out, and I walked from my backyard, opened up my map, saw myself standing in the backyard because the closer you zoom in, it turns into a satellite view of your location. So it shows what house you're at. It shows what part of the house you're at. And then I walked to the front of my house into the street area, and it showed me move. So their GPS location settings on that application are impeccable. They will follow you.
And you know what? We're sitting here and talking about, drug use and being able to meet with drug dealers and being able to, pick up your drugs. I mean, because that's essentially what that feature is being used for.
Yes.
When kids find out who the drug dealer is, they can kind of show where they're at on the cloud, and then you go meet at that point. Here's the other thing, because it actually can even go beyond drugs. It can all sex trafficking. I mean, think about that feature. And if your child is 13 or 14 or 15 years old, they are essentially letting a total stranger know their exact GPS location.
Absolutely.
The thing that frustrates me, Sergeant, is that these companies know this.
Yes.
They know full well there is no reason for a 13-year-old girl or a 15-year-old kid to be able to track and have strangers be able to track them. Like, tell me for one good reason why that feature is a positive use.
And there's not. There's not a good reason. When I, again, going back to when I started looking into this, I would ask individuals, why do you let your kids have Snapchat? So my son coming into 12 years old, why would I let him? What's the point? And I've gotten responses of, well, I use it to see where my kids are at. Okay, well, so can every single person on their friends list that they never had a contact or reason to contact before.
And you know what I would say back to those parents, being like, I want to know where my kid is at. Good. You can do that just through Google Maps. Mm-hmm. Like, I can send my location and be tracked by my friends if I'm driving to LA. I do it all the time. If I'm going to visit a friend in LA, I will absolutely let them follow my maps So they know if I got into a car accident.
Yeah.
So they know how far away I'm out from the drive. There's other ways. You don't need to download Snapchat in order to track your child.
Right. But it is the trending application. It's the way that kids prefer to communicate with each other. They did a survey in April of last year.
I mean, that goes back to our next issue, that the minimum age for the minimum age, the feds, the federal laws, right? We're here to protect your child. Yeah. All you have to do is be 13 years old. And they call that what act?
It's the U.S. Children's Online Protection.
The U.S. Children's Online Protection.
Privacy Protection Act.
Privacy Protection Act. You tell me how allowing a child who is 13 on is protecting them from the outside world. Yeah. It's like these strangers have full access to your child. These drug dealers have full access to your child the moment you allow said child to go on to Snapchat. And don't let your child explain to you, I just use it so I could have little doggy ears or little bunny ears. I just use it for the cute filters.
Yep. Or to get a bigger score. Snapchat's done really good at making it a competition, making it fun, making it something that kids want to have, because the higher the score, the more popular, the cuter the photo. We're talking about the mentality of kids.
And there is science to even prove this up. You could take somebody, put a kid, neurofeedback, brain map them, stick electrodes to their brain, put them on an app like Snapchat. It almost will light up the brain, scientifically speaking, like a hit of cocaine. So these apps are actually addictive for me.
Absolutely.
Right? You look at social media, phones can track how long you're on it. Mm-hmm. It's why when you take an iPad away from a kid, when you let them use it all the time, they're having a withdrawal symptom, a withdrawal attack, because their brain is used to that immediate high, and that that serotonin, the dopamine is just flushing out.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that, Snapchats and the Instagrams is like a drug in and of itself.
Absolutely.
And addictive forming. So they're going to be on it more. Mm-hmm. And those apps are created that way.
Yep.
To get your kid to be on it more. The more they're on it, the more they're going to be available to these randos. That's the reason why I say that. Yeah. The more that these apps are addictive forming, the more time and hours a day that your child is spending on it, which means the more time that they're spending makes them more susceptible to
more access.
More access.
The more access that complete strangers have to your kids. And when I say complete strangers, to kind of bring it back is the entire world can see content on those maps. Yeah. The entire world. So if I'm curious about what's going on, if I know something is going on in a certain part of the world,
you can just geo-map it into that area.
I can just go to that area and I can zoom in and see any content.
Because it lights up the color red when there's a lot of high content activity happening in that area.
Absolutely. So when something is going on, there's a concert, there's just anything that has a lot of people posting in the same area, that blue cloud will start to turn red. And all you have to do is, touch your screen and scroll through.
And it's important for parents to know that Facebook is for the older folks now.
Yes.
I'm like, when grandparents are on Facebook, the kids are no longer on it. Kids do not want to be associated with grandma and granddad when it comes to social media. So let's talk real talk. Snapchat is it right now for kids.
Snapchat is their preferred way of communication.
Yeah.
Whereas the TikToks and the Instagrams, those are their form of entertainment. So if you think about the content and the things that they're doing on those applications, they're using them for entertainment, whereas Snapchat is specifically to talk to people.
Yeah, because they can delete those conversations.
Yep, absolutely.
Mom and dad can't trace me here, which is why mom and dad shouldn't probably be letting your kid on Snapchat till they're 18. Sorry, that's my personal opinion. Let's talk about counterfeit pills. And this one really hits home for me, Sergeant, because I recently did a 7-minute story on a mother here in the Valley, Marissa, and she opened up her son, 15 years old, played for a Valley football team. He ended up, they went to the mall. They were on Snapchat, and the friend said, hey, we're going to go pick up some Oxy. Mm-hmm. And it was being sold to them on Snapchat that they were going to get Oxy. Well, Isaiah ended up taking a pill. It was not Oxy. It was fentanyl.
Right.
And he ended up dying an hour later because of the dosage that was in that fentanyl pill. They thought they were buying Oxy from a dealer. Mm-hmm. He ends up taking one pill, and he's dead.
Yep. And
I want to talk about some of the counterfeit pills. In that situation is a perfect example where kids think they're buying a painkiller, a Valium, an Oxy, whatever that is, a Percocet. That's harmless. Yeah. But it's not that real drug.
Absolutely. So these, you talk about these kids who have a dental surgery or a sports injury, and they've had these medications prescribed to them by a doctor in the past. Then the medication is gone, and maybe they have a different ailment. Maybe they have something, they like the way it felt, so they want to feel that feeling. And they know that they can find people that are selling this stuff on Snapchat specifically, so they go looking for it. The difference, though, between what the doctor is prescribing and giving them and what they're getting from their parent is that the counterfeit pills are being produced on the streets. They're being produced by the drug dealers, and there is no regulation. So one pill can have enough fentanyl to kill 5 people, whereas another might not have any. And there's no way to tell the difference unless you do have those fentanyl test strips.
Yeah, which I hear they're giving out some of those. There was a lot of even controversy. Why are we putting out these fentanyl test strips out there for the public? And I'm like, it goes back to the days of harm reduction. Like, listen, kids going to EDM festivals, there's a lot of ecstasy, right? Things described as ecstasy pills with little anime characters on it. They look cute. They look fun. They look like Freddie Flintstone tablets, But unless you have a way to test what's really in it, you have absolutely no idea what you are putting into your body.
Absolutely. But you're 12, 14,
and your body's
16,
littler.
Your body's little, and you don't have access to those things.
No,
so
you don't.
You're taking something because you're trusting what's being given to you, because again, the naive brain, and it only takes one.
So that leads me to this next question. What can parents do to really kind of protect their child in a day of social media, where I think a lot of parents feel, I don't know if they choose to be naive. I think that some of them just feel helpless, maybe.
I don't know that they choose to be naive. More so, adults are busy. Adults have, we have to provide. We have to be able to take care of our families, and that's stressful. But it does take communicating with your kids. However, it's not just communication. You still have to monitor. You still have to be on these media applications. You still have to educate yourself about what it is that they're looking at. Every app that your child puts on their phone, their computer, and again, it's not just your phone. So your phone, your tablets, your computers, anything that they have access to, you have to be able to understand what that is so that you are aware of the dangers. You have to know, what things mean. If you don't know what they mean, ask, look them up. Know your resources, because that's another thing. Parents don't know their resources. They don't know where to reach out if something's already happening.
And you were talking about having that open dialogue with your kid before you go and have that conversation with your child about, not using drugs. Don't experiment. Don't take something you don't know. Before any parent has that conversation, my God, know the lingo. Because once your kid realizes that mom doesn't really know what she's talking about, or dad still... They're so old, man. They're back in their drug days. You have to know the kids' lingo to get their attention, because by knowing and speaking your child's lingo, you're telling them, you cannot fool me. I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And this is actually something that I laugh about with my 12-year-old. I search the things to see what they mean. I will look them up. If my kid is saying
a code of a couple letters that don't make sense to you, use Google. Figure out what that lingo means.
I look it up because he's likely not going to tell me what it means, or he's going to tell me something different. But kids are using acronyms. They're using, DOC to me as Department of Corrections. To my child, or to a child, it could be drug of choice. If I didn't look that up, I would have never known. I would have had no clue. But it takes doing your own research and becoming curious about what it is that your kids have access to.
And I want to talk about some of those codes, because I'm all about just put them all out there and bust these kids. Because when I did that story, and we actually did another segment on Snapchat and what some of the code words, did you know within that hour, as that hour-long special was airing, we found people Snapchatting, Arizona's family is doing a special report on Snapchat, don't use this code, don't use and I was just like, I love it. You'll go eventually find some other ways of communication, but today I got you, and I'm going to try and bust everything about you.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is it's not new. I mean, how many adults use LOL?
Right.
It's the same concept. The difference is that's been around longer. So you have to look up what the things mean.
Because they're going to change.
And they're going to progress, and they all mean different things. The understanding how hashtags work. Ask an adult that they can tell an adult they can search a hashtag.
They're like, why are they using the pound sign?
Yeah.
I use pound
how
when
that
I'm
happens. Yep. Explaining what happens when you search just the hashtags.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Now you can see everything. Well, how do you think your kids are finding stuff?
So let's go through some of those. It's about knowing the lingo. I know this one because I used to be a meth user, Tina, and I'm a gay man. And Tina is a word actually used a lot in the gay community back when I was using. So that one's been around a long time. So Tina is meth. You can kind of go through some of the other ones. 420.
420 would be marijuana.
And that little plug symbol.
Yes, so that's a connection.
That's a connection.
Somebody who's got what you got.
Someone's got what you got. Essentially, if you see a plug on your child's phone,
ask them what the plug is for.
Ask them what that plug is for, because I don't know why even there's a plug emoji.
Nope.
Can somebody even tell me why there's a plug emoji? Because I would like to know who uses that in everyday lingo anyway.
Yep.
Come on, Instagram, all you people, you don't need a plug emoji out there. And then the 8-ball. I mean, that goes back to my days of abusing cocaine at age 15. We were calling 8-balls 8-balls.
Yep. There's really a meaning, I would say, for just about every emoji that you look at. There's a derogatory meaning for just about every emoji that you look at in your phone. If you're really curious about substance-related specific emojis, again, you can Google these things. They will show you. The pills that we're talking about, the Percocets, the Oxycontins, those could look like a blue M&M. Yeah. You know, they could look like the little pill emoji that's on the iPhones. It really just takes thinking outside of the box and not containing yourself to your own idea of what drug dealing looks like, because our idea is not online.
And I always say that too. That's why it's, just like a therapist is trained in the way, right? We all come to a situation with our own life and lived experiences, and that's how we view the world. Well, a therapist is trained to be able to take off their lens, right? And to be able to put on their patient's lens, to see life through their eyes and help them navigate a situation that way. Well, I tell parents, time to take off parents' glasses, put on your child's. See the world from their lens so you understand in order to connect with them.
Absolutely. And that takes me honestly back to when we're talking about talking to our kids. You can talk to your kids all day long.
Yeah.
But if you don't understand that your child, as young as they are, can have very real stressors in life that might mimic your own as an adult, if you can't take that in and realize that that's a possibility, then you're not going to connect with your kids, because these kids do have very same stressors in life that we as adults have. They're worried about their parents divorcing. They're worried about, are we going to have lights in the house tonight? Are we going to have food? I think parents get in the mindset of, you're just worried about the drama at school. You're worried about homework. That's short-term life stuff. Like, that's just school. And that's just a very small piece. You have no idea what I'm dealing with. Well, those kids are probably dealing with the same kind of thoughts. And if we don't pay notion to them, then they're not going to give us the information to be able to help them. And then the other piece to that is we all want to jump in and be the super mom, super dad, super parent. And sometimes these kids just want to talk. They just want to voice their opinion. Yeah. And typically after that, they ask, well, what would you do? And then you have the chance. If you allow them. Yes. Yeah. If you allow them to talk. Yep.
Because let me tell you this, my time in college, a lot of the helicopter parents, while they were under their care, when their child went away to college, used to be the biggest wild childs out on that college campus. Yep. So mom and dad had them wound up so tight, was a helicopter parent their whole life, and the moment they got some freedom, boom, it was like off to the races.
Absolutely.
So it kind of goes along that line. What do some of these drug dealing ads look like?
So what's interesting is that these drug dealers have the same mentality as our kids, right? So our kids know that the messages disappear, that people can't find them. So the drug dealers feel the same way. They're going to put photos of their faces. They're going to put photos of the weapons. They're going to put photos of the money, the big money, and the drugs themselves. And they're going to have the emojis on them that we just talked about. They're going to have the acronym, language that we talked about. So they're photos, they're videos, but they're very brazen. They're very brazen. Where before, the drug dealers were kind of the hidden coy. Yeah. You didn't speak their name. You didn't know those things about those people. Somebody knew them, but that was your connection, was through a friend. Where now they are very, very public with who they are.
Yeah. It's a crazy world how brazen they are. I've seen some of them and I'm like, wow, times have changed. How do you know if your child's on drugs?
Honestly, it's kind of difficult when you're young. A lot of the signs and symptoms of substance misuse do look a lot like young teen behavior.
Yeah.
You know, the kid who doesn't like to shower, the kid who's moody. But it's really important that parents do take the time to understand what substance misuse looks like and understand that it's going to look different depending on what substance that they're using.
100%. I mean, 100%. Yeah. If your kid's sleeping all day, you know, like,
That's not normal.
It's not normal.
Yeah.
You know, are they missing class? Are they not showing up to their athletic events? Do they feel withdrawn? You know,
Absolutely.
Are they not participating in dinner conversations?
Yeah. Have they changed their group of friends? Have they changed the way they dress? It can be all of those things, or it could be none of those things. And it really does take being involved in their life and just having a communication that they can trust to come to you. And I know that's hard. I know that we are all busy. I mean, I can tell you my 12-year-old can talk all day long, and there's moments where I'm like, what did he just say?
Yeah.
But it's because I have to bring it back to, I need to be involved. I need to be here, and I need to listen to what he's saying, because he's saying something. And if I don't listen and if I don't respond, he's going to find somebody that will.
100%. But it goes back to that same thing too, Sergeant, that we all have a role to play. I don't have kids. I have 0 kids. And will I have kids? No, I won't. But that doesn't mean that I don't have a role in helping our future generation and helping these kids. Like, we all play a role. We can't choose to be like, well, my kids are grown, I don't got to worry about it anymore. No, like, we have that responsibility as a community. The responsibility is never just on mom or dad, because that's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Parents these days are working 2 to 3 jobs to provide.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, and they have to be that, they have to do that for their family. So we all have a role to play in that. So I love that message. What I also think we need to educate parents on is naloxone. I have done stories on naloxone, and people are like, why are you giving away drugs to drug addicts? And like, just that in and of itself is like, oh my God, you actually think that naloxone, or Narcan, that is more the common term, Narcan is a drug.
Yes. So part of our statewide awareness campaign, which this presentation is a part of, is to reduce that stigma of Narcan naloxone spray, because people do have that mentality of you're giving a drug to a drug user. And what people don't know, and it takes the education on, is that it only responds in the body if there is an opioid, because it bonds to the opioid receptor.
Correct.
So if
you don't get high off of it. As a
and
matter of fact, from a meth user or a heroin user who gets it, it's a very unpleasant experience.
Yes, it is not fun. But it takes that education. It takes people realizing we're not giving a free ticket. We're saving lives. And that's ultimately the goal. Like, our goal with the stigma reduction is that we have people in this community that have naloxone a part of their first aid kit, because it is that safe. We have aspirin in homes for people if they have signs of a heart attack.
Yeah.
I may never need it in my home, but if somebody knocks on my door, I want to have it.
I have 2 things of nasal naloxone in my car, because I don't know when I'm ever going to need it. Absolutely. You know, I have friends who do recreational drugs. I mean, I just do. I can't control them. You know, like, adults are even going to do it, but I'm always going to have it with me just in case.
Absolutely.
You know, just in case.
And that's the whole point, is, again, you might and never need it, but at least you have it.
But just like we teach kids how to do CPR as kids, we should also teach them how to administer Narcan. Yes. And I don't see why that should even be controversial, but for some reason it is, because parents aren't educated about what naloxone is. But we teach kids how to do CPR, how to do the Heimlich maneuver in case somebody chokes. Well, if we know drugs are in our kids' community, why wouldn't we teach a kid how to administer Narcan? And
I think a lot of the fear is that it is a medication, but with federal law making it available through statewide acts, widely available in every state, that you don't need a prescription to get this medication.
No, you do not.
You just have to ask your pharmacy.
You can just go to the pharmacist and go, I need this.
Yeah.
And that leads us into the Good Samaritan Law. I'm going to tell you why this is so crucial. The education part of this. People don't know this. No. Not enough people know about the Good Samaritan Law. I know about it. That's why I'm alive today. I was in Los Angeles, in the slums of LA, shooting my meth and heroin. I overdosed. I am just grateful that the person I was using drugs with, Sergeant, that night, called 911.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because had they just left out of fear that if they called 911, that the cops would come, the ambulance would come, that they were high as well, that they would go to prison, they would go to jail, they would get in trouble, then if he was scared about that, I'd be dead.
Absolutely.
Because he would have just left the scene. I was just another guy who was doing drugs with.
Yeah. Well, and this is why it's so imperative to educate parents, because our kids have that mindset. Our kids know that they're doing something wrong, and when something goes bad when they're doing something wrong,
they ain't calling police.
They're not calling anybody to help. They're
going to try and cover it up.
Yeah.
They're going to try and like save the guy's life. They're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
And then they're going to cover it up and they're going to lie. But you know what's going to suck is then that kid is going to live with the shame and the guilt and survivor's guilt that they were with somebody who died and they didn't do anything about it, which will actually impede them to use more drugs.
Absolutely. So the Good Samaritan Law, it really is a lifesaver on all aspects. So if you administer naloxone to somebody, and let's say they weren't overdosing or whatever, and you administered it in good faith that you believe they were overdosing, you're protected. If you're protected. Any aid that you render or receive as a user, you are protected under the Good Samaritan Law. So even an individual who feels like they might be overdosing, they can go to a hospital. They can call for help. The friends of these kids can call for help, and nobody's going to get in trouble.
And we only do that by educating. Let's get back inside the classrooms and teach kids about the Good Samaritan Law, teach kids about naloxone, teach kids about keeping their friends alive, because you know what? The reality of the world is this. You will eventually one day, a high majority of kids are going to see somebody overdose, whether it's even alcohol and they black out, right? Or it's something. You go to college, at least have the education behind you.
Yeah.
At least have the education behind you, especially if you're sending your kids off to college across the country. Like if I were a parent, I'd be like, oh, we've taken several courses before I ship you off to college.
Yeah.
Like you're going to go armed with all the knowledge and the information you need to know, because real life circumstances are going to happen around you. I can't protect you around everything.
Absolutely. And that, again, like you said, that's why it comes back to educating. And even if it is from the caregiver to the child, it is the caregiver's responsibility to make sure your child, it doesn't necessarily need to be mom or dad, but the caregiver. Grandparents can be caregivers. Anybody that is in care of a child or deals with youth should educate these kids and educate it at their level.
And lastly, as we wrap up, what are some additional resources that you would love this opportunity for people to know about?
Absolutely. So TalkNowAZ TalkNowAZ.com is the website that houses the statewide awareness campaign information. And I would suggest anybody, if you're curious to know more about Snapchat, if you're curious to know about your community coalition and you want to get more involved and you don't know how to do it in your own neighborhood, go to TalkNowAZ.com, naloxoneaz.com. If we said anything that resonates with naloxone for you, but you don't want people to know that you're looking for this, or you don't have an opioid or a reason to request it from a pharmacist, but you want to have it in your home, you can go to naloxoneaz.com and find places where you can get it for free.
Yeah, for free.
For free.
For free. You don't have to have an insurance card. You don't have to pay money for it.
Absolutely.
This is part of, our way of keeping people alive. People alive. Sergeant Ashley Thompson with the Arizona Army National Guard. Thank you. And thank you for the service you're doing out there and the work that you're doing and the awareness and stuff like that. We appreciate it. And thank you for tuning in to this very special edition of this podcast, Escaping Rock Bottom, for the CARE event. We're going to provide more information about the CARE event right now. Celebrate the Art of Recovery Expo CARE 2021 sponsors. Presented by Community Bridges. Partner, Hunkapi. Platinum sponsors. Arizona Women's Recovery Center, Molina Healthcare, Mercy Care. Silver sponsors, Calvary Healing Center, Clean Slate, Friends, Teen Challenge of Arizona, Together AZ Newspaper,